Hey there, it's Sam with a quick astrological update here around the end of October. A lot of interesting things happening right now. Mercury's now retrograde, and we see in the news a lot of things that reflect some of this retrograde Mercury action. For instance, a couple themes that are really dominating the news: the U.S. spy scandal. This Mercury retrograde, of course, Mercury has to do with information, communications. Certainly, getting caught spying on people's phone conversations and things like that is a definite Mercury retrograde thing, especially because it's joined Rahu, which is also about secrets and potential deception. It's also joined Saturn. It's about to go into the Nakshatra of Swati. In fact, we're about to have 4 planets in the Nakshatra of Swati, which is also related to Rahu. So I'll talk about Swati in a minute. But you know, Mercury retrograde is really a time, all retrograde planets show a time to reflect upon that energy rather than just express them externally. Mercury retrograde shows the need to do that with information, with communications, and with that sort of story in our head that we're telling ourselves what things mean and whatnot. So when Mercury goes retrograde, it's a good time to reflect on those things. And of course, other countries have noticed now, you know, what's the story in the head of the United States? They're like spying on us. So, you know, I think France and Germany and I think some South American countries as well are noticing this U.S. tendency to gather intelligence in non-friendly ways. And so the sort of karma of the intelligence gathering of the U.S. is an issue right now. One of the other things that's happening in general in the U.S., you know, there was that big debate about our budget. A lot of it hinged on the Affordable Care Act, what is also termed as, quote, Obamacare. And there's been a lot of answering for those things in the press lately. Problems with the website and with the initial implementation of the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act program. A lot of mistakes trying to register, and I mean, these things are mandatory by law now in the U.S. that we have to do this by the beginning of 2014 or suffer a penalty, and yet their system isn't working very well. So, of course, these kind of technical glitches and things like that are also related to Mercury retrograde. So, we see this pretty prominently played out in the news. You know, the prominent news stories before Mercury went retrograde had to do with that sort of budget impasse. It's funny how it was actually before Mercury went retrograde. It's actually when the Sun changed signs and moved into Libra that we saw the impasse untangle. But so since Mercury went retrograde, though, we're seeing a shift toward these issues that have to do with the problem with the websites and the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, and also this spying scandal. And Swati Nakshatra has to do with information and communication and scattering like the wind, the capacity to scatter like the wind. Now, there are 3 planets in Swati right now: Rahu, Sun, and Saturn. And Mercury's about to go retrograde into Swati. So there's going to be a lot of planets in Swati, but certainly this is very important in this information, you know, reckoning of karma around information with the U.S. now. Something else I've noticed, which happens in between eclipses often, is we'll see noticeable indications of the nodes' influence. Like, for instance, the nodes are related to, well, they're like sort of dragons and things like that, like sea serpents, and also things like decapitations, having the head cut off, because Rahu literally was where the head was cut off. There was a very interesting story on the front page of CNN a few days ago, earlier in the week of October 20th, where there was a thing that said Facebook beheadings but not breasts. I mean, it's like what a headline, right? Beheadings but not breasts. Very, very Rahu in Libra in the eclipse cycle-ish, because, again, you know, Rahu is related to beheadings, and literally the Reign of Terror in France, when they chopped off all of those heads, that sort of Reign of Terror, happened on the eclipses. The first day of the of a solar eclipse and the last day of a solar eclipse. That's actually when the Reign of Terror began. So it's definitely related to decapitations, Rahu. So Facebook decided to allow videos of beheadings, but not women's nudity. And again, this is in the sign of Libra. As I already discussed with this eclipse, there's a lot of themes about social justice, gay rights, women's rights, ongoing around the globe. We're seeing a loosening of the bonds that have people pushed into hard-line positions that oppress human rights. Even like in Iran, we're seeing more a greater call for diplomacy. In India, there's been, in this last year, since Rahu and Saturn have been in Libra, we've seen a very public outcry against, women rapes. There has been and still is an entrenched view that when women get raped in India, it's because they deserve it somehow, because of the way they're dressed and all that stuff. So, not to mention gay rights in this country and around the world. So these are all Libra themes, but yet we see how these themes of conscious sexuality and equality around relationship and sexual and women themes are played out on this eclipse with this Facebook allows beheadings but not breasts. And another big issue has to do with, Rahu is related to serpents and things like dragons and whatnot. Last week, there was a gigantic oarfish that washed up on the shore. You probably saw the picture. That gigantic fish. It looks like it's from another planet. And, of course, its head was practically cut off. But it's very, very related to Rahu. There was another very mysterious sea creature that washed up on the shores in California as well. And so seeing this unusual sea life is definitely also related to Rahu, and it's unusual in this eclipse cycle to see that. Something else that's coming up that's quite important, especially because of the eclipses, the Nakshatra of Swati now has 3 planets in it. Mercury's about to go retrograde back into Swati as well, so Swati is really important. We're going to have the eclipse in Swati, but what's really noteworthy is there's going to be 4 planets in the Nakshatra of Swati between October 29th and November the 4th. 4 planets in one nakshatra. It's very close. Of course, one of them is Rahu, the lunar node, but then the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn also. And in fact, on one of those days, November 3rd, the Moon will also be there. A lot of emphasis on the Nakshatra of Swati. Swati it's related to Rahu. One thing to realize is that the nakshatras aren't really ruled by planets. They're associated with planets in the Vimshotri Dasha scheme. But you really look at the nakshatras first as they relate to the deity. And the deity of Swati is Vayu, who was the god of the wind in the Vedas. And the son of Vayu was Hanuman, who is the great hero of the epic Ramayana. And he was the king of the monkeys, or the general of the army of monkeys that came to the aid of Lord Rama to restore the kingdom. There's a lot of symbolism in the story of the Ramayana, and as it relates to Hanuman and bringing the power of prana to service the king in us. Prana is related to breath. Prana is the quality of Vayu, air, the sacred air. Sacred Vayu is prana, which is the life force, the breath. That's really what Vayu is. Sacred prana, or sacred air, is called prana. And the god is Vayu, just like sacred fire is called Agni. Or it's actually called Tejas, and the god is Agni. So sacred air is prana, breath, the life force, and the deity is called Vayu. Well, Hanuman, the hero, the monkey god of the Ramayana, is an incarnation of the son of Vayu. So basically an incarnation of the wind, the power of the wind, the power of prana to be a great superhuman heroic force. And it's really the power of the mind. Once we gather the rays of the mind together, then instead of it being a bunch of monkeys running all over the place, it's one big powerful force. This is the symbolism of the army of monkeys, the general of the army of monkeys. It means if we if we bring together all of that mental energy that's so dispersed in 10 million thoughts that just distract us everywhere, and we concentrate that power, it's enormously strong. This is what yoga does, is it gathers the rays of the mind, gathers the dissipated life force into a strength that becomes prana and vitality. So this is an important symbol for Hanuman, and an important symbol for the next few, between now and like at least around the middle of November, where we're going to have 2 to 3 planets in Swati Nakshatra. So at least from October 29th to November the 4th, we'll have 4 planets there, and even now we have 3 planets there. So between now and November the 4th, there's a lot of planets in Swati. It's a great time for you to really transform the monkey mind, the distracted details, into a concentrated, powerful force of prana.